You want to decrease your risk of cancer? You want to prevent cancer naturally? If you're carrying extra weight, you want to trim down. Well, let's move on to another very important concept in the Life Start paradigm, and all the experts are talking about it. If you want to decrease your risk of cancer optimally, you need to be on a regular exercise program. The experts today are telling us 30 minutes every day of exercise. That's what you need to plan on. Now, to be honest with you, I often recommend my overweight patients shoot for an hour a day. Work up to that. If you're doing nothing, don't try to go out and walk for 60 minutes. And if you've got questions about the safety of exercise, by all means, speak with your physician. But most of us don't need a prescription to go shopping in Walmart, for example, right? And some of those stores can be pretty big. Or to go to the mall, that's even bigger, right? Did you need a prescription to walk in the mall? If you're able to do that, it's probably safe to walk at that same pace around your block. And by the way, the benefits of exercise are cumulative. They add up throughout the day. So when we speak about 30 minutes every day, you can do 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes there, until it adds up to 30 minutes. And all forms of physical activity protect against some cancers. That's really the take-home message. Do something. Be active. Cancer of the bowel, the colon. Powerful cancer protection if you're physically active. Just keep that in mind. How does exercise influence cancer? Well, it actually impacts it in many of the same ways that obesity impacts it. Only it reverses those processes. Exercise helps you lose weight. Exercise keeps blood estrogen levels lower. Exercise keeps IGF-1 levels lower. But exercise does something else interesting. Remember I mentioned this connection with colon cancer? Exercise speeds up transit time throughout the intestinal system. That means the bowels work better. If the bowels work better, if there are carcinogens in the bowel, it moves them through quicker so that there's less exposure to the bowel wall. Let me say carcinogens. I'm not eating any carcinogens. Let me just tell you, probably one of the most shocking things that I can tell you about carcinogens in the bowel. The very bile that your liver makes to digest fatty foods. Now, it actually doesn't digest it. Technically, it emulsifies. It helps it to mix with the intestinal contents. But the bile that is made by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, that bile is converted into carcinogenic compounds in the colon. It's most likely to be converted into large amounts of carcinogens if you're eating lots of animal products. If you're eating plant products, that process is limited significantly. Well, hey, that brings us to our next topic, and that is what kind of foods we eat. That's the F in Life Start, and it's very important. Diet is huge. The researchers are telling us we should limit our consumption of energy-dense foods. Those desserts, those soft drinks, those pastries, those fast foods. You get the message. The opposite of calorie-dense foods are fruits and whole grains and vegetables. Processed foods tend to be more energy-dense than fresh foods. Make those fresh foods your friends. Those calorie-dense foods are feeding that epidemic of what? Weight gain. So you see how that all fits together. But let's look now more at some specific dietary choices that can make a difference as far as you getting the upper hand and never developing cancer in the first place. And let's talk about a good fat. If you've heard my series on the brain health revolution, you've heard me touting the benefits of omega-3 fat. They're great for your brain, but they also have cancer preventive properties. Did you know you can decrease your risk, if you're a man, of aggressive prostate cancer by increasing your amount of omega-3 fat intake? You say, Dr. DeRose, I'm headed right over to the fish market. Well, I recommend you get your omega-3 fats from something that doesn't tend to have the heavy metal toxins like are in the tissue of fish. I recommend you get it right from the source. That's right, fish do not make omega-3 fats. They only concentrate the omega-3 fats from plant sources. So get it from plants. Get it from flaxseed. By the way, you got to ground the flaxseed, grind it to get the benefit of the omega-3 fat. Get it from walnuts. Get it from soybeans. They're a modest source of omega-3 fat. So eat those whole plant foods, get those omega-3 fats, and they will actually help you get the upper hand when it comes to preventing cancer naturally. In fact, the researchers are all telling us, focus your attention on those plant foods. And here's some of the specific recommendations that expert groups are giving us. Eat unprocessed cereals or beans, pulses, every meal. Did you catch that? Every meal. That means no white bread. Well, it doesn't mean you can never eat it, but listen. If you understand how powerful fiber is and phytochemicals, plant chemicals in preventing cancer, you're going to do what I did at one point in my life. I had become a vegetarian. I was eating lots of meat and living the average American lifestyle. And I got serious about this as a young adult. But even after I became a vegetarian, I was still eating some refined grain products. I was raised in an Italian home, so we had lots of white pasta. But when I started learning the science about the health-giving properties of fiber and phytochemicals, I'd look at that white pasta and I'd say, well, why would I want to fill my stomach with this when I could eat the whole grain variety? Now, granted, that whole grain pasta didn't taste very good at first. But once I got used to it, I preferred the whole grain to the white pasta. Are you catching the message? If you haven't heard it before, if you haven't heard my seminar on changing bad habits for good, listen, we can develop new enjoyments. Don't shy away from the optimal cancer preventive program because you say, well, I just couldn't live like that. I wouldn't enjoy life at all. I'd rather die of cancer early. You can develop new enjoyments. You can develop an enjoyment for those whole grains. Listen to some more of the recommendations. Eat at least 5 servings of non-starchy vegetables and fruits a day. So first they say eat the starchy ones, but the whole grains in their whole form. Whole plant foods eaten whole, as some of my friends like to say. And then with the other vegetables, 5 servings of non-starchy vegetables and fruits each day, and then limit your refined starchy foods. This will go a long way into preventing cancer. The research is very clear. It makes a difference. You eat these phytochemically rich things and you are eating an anti-cancer diet. Stock up on the legumes, the beans, stock up on the vegetables, the whole fruits. These are powerful foods in preventing cancer. You say, how do they work? Are you aware that some of the phytochemicals, some of the plant chemicals, actually just found in the whole plants, actually have the ability to detoxify carcinogens? That's right. You eat a cancer-producing compound, and those plant chemicals actually get in there, and they just destroy that carcinogen. Plant foods also boost the health of the immune system. They can actually interfere with the work cancer tries to do in signaling the body to give it more blood. Plant foods can interfere with that. So the experts are telling us, eat more plant foods and do what? What do you think the corollary is? Eat less of those animal foods. Study after study showing connections between eating more meat and more cancer. So the message is pretty simple in the food department. We want to be plant eaters. The optimal diet is really a whole plant foods diet. And it's powerful. We got to mention one other thing that comes up in all the recommendations, and that is the emphasis on avoiding alcoholic beverages. Now, in the World Cancer Research Fund report, they talk about limiting alcoholic drinks. I will tell you they're being very gentle because many expert groups and many experts are saying if you're serious about decreasing your cancer risk as much as possible, you have got to leave the alcohol off. A large data set has been generated by the prospective study called the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition, abbreviated EPIC. They have found convincingly that any amount of alcohol consumption increases the risk of cancer, and the experts are telling us you better leave that off if you want to lower your risk of cancer optimally. Couple of other problems are worth noting. If you're stocking up on salty or salt-preserved foods, these are not your friends in the cancer department. And the other thing, it may seem to go without saying, but moldy cereals and legumes can contain carcinogenic substances. I do enjoy peanut butter, but it is something we do need to be careful of. Many producers are not ensuring that all those peanuts are free from mold. Probably best off making your own. The mold in peanuts has a particularly nasty compound called aflatoxin, which is a carcinogen. Well, dietary supplements are not recommended by expert groups, but one vitamin is recommended. It's vitamin D. Vitamin D can decrease your risk of a number of cancers, such as prostate, colon, breast, lung cancer. Get out in the sun. Don't burn. Don't get too much. If you can't get enough sunshine to make enough vitamin D and you've had your blood checked, take a supplement. There's a lot we can do to prevent cancer naturally. Hopefully you've enjoyed these high points. There's more great resources on our website, lifestartseminars.com. You can get personalized coaching help as well in many regions of the country and the world. You can get our free ebooks, our free study guide that goes with this, and you can get more of my presentations and more of our studies because we're interested in giving you a new start on your life. I'm Dr. DeRose.
What's wrong?
I don't like my hair. It's too crazy.
That's what you think about your outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That's what really counts.
Thanks. That really helps me feel better.
Right now, we're going to be singing a song based on that verse. It is found in 1 Samuel 16, verse 7.
Come on, let's go.
Okay.
Verse 7, the Lord
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you today. Thank you, Nathaniel, for that beautiful testimony. I feel like we've already had church and we could just go home right now. That was beautiful. But I did prepare a few things to share with you this morning. At the North Texas Food Bank, where I worked as a fundraiser, we had a program where we partnered with Dawson, which was a women's prison, and we would hire them as volunteers to work in our kitchen. In our kitchen, we prepared meals for people at shut-ins, at Food for Kids programs, different areas where we would have prepared hot meals. And so these ladies would volunteer to be part of our program. They were all nonviolent offenders, so we weren't at risk having them work there with us. They were ladies who had written bad checks or had problems with drugs, and they were chosen by the facility for this program. One lady told me, she said, "It is a privilege to work here at the food bank." She said, "While I'm locked up, someone is taking care of and feeding my child. And it feels so good to work here and help take care of someone else's child, to help feed another child." She was in a situation that none of us would want to be in, and yet she felt grateful. She had this beautiful spirit of gratitude. And today I want to talk about gratitude. I know it's not that time of year. We have almost 4 months left before we have to go around the table and name something we're thankful for. But this is something I think we should talk about more, because the Bible has a lot more to say on this topic. In fact, it says in 1 Thessalonians 5:18 to give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Do you feel like sometimes it is really hard to show gratitude or even to feel grateful? I think this is a struggle for many of us, and perhaps gratitude is difficult because it's an acknowledgement that we needed something. If I say thank you to someone for helping me, will they think I wasn't capable of doing that thing myself? Or if I acknowledge how much something is helping, will the helper think less of me? We live in such a pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of world, and we're so focused on the value of doing things ourselves that we forget the value of a grateful heart and expressing that gratitude to others. By the way, I think it's okay for others to know that you are not Superman or Wonder Woman. It's called vulnerability. I love what the author Brené Brown says about this. She says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. There is a story about gratitude in Luke chapter 17. If you would turn there in your Bibles with me. If you're using the Pew Bible, it's page 971. And let's start at verse 11, Luke 17:11. On the way to Jerusalem, he was passing along between Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered a village, he was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance and lifted up their voices, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were cleansed. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice, and he fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks. Now he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus answered, "Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" And he said to him, "Rise and go your way. Your faith has made you well." Like most stories in the Bible, this one is very brief but has a lot packed inside of it. First, the men asking for healing have several things in common. They were all affected with the skin disease of leprosy. They were all outcast and had been living on the outskirts of society. We also know that all 10 lepers had faith. And all 10 were healed when they obeyed Jesus' instruction to go show themselves to the priest. But only one was made well. The commentaries say that the wording used for made well is the same as to be saved. It's the same wording that was used to say that salvation had come to Zacchaeus. So only one of the healed men returned to say thank you for this incredible miracle performed on his behalf. And because of this act of gratitude, he was saved. This story clearly demonstrates the importance of gratitude. Faith and thanksgiving are inseparable. Which begs the question, is gratitude as important as faith? We talk about faith all the time, at least once a week up front and through our Bible study classes, but we usually reserve just 1 week a year to talk about gratitude. And in the story of the 10 lepers, Jesus is telling us that gratitude is really, really important. It's not enough to feel in your heart that you're grateful. You must act on it. And we could assume that the other 9 leprous men were grateful for their healing as well. They just didn't take the time to come back. But Jesus asked the question, where are the others? Were not 10 men healed? He obviously expected them to return as well, giving thanks for the incredible gift he had given them. I found this passage by Ellen White that was published in My Life Today. She says, the lesson which is recorded concerning the 10 lepers should awaken in every heart an earnest desire to change the existing order of ingratitude into one of praise and thanksgiving. Let the professed people of God stop murmuring and complaining. Let us remember who is the first great giver of all our blessings. Reggie Joyner, who's an author and also co-founder of the Orange program that we use here in our kids' ministries, he writes a blog called Parent Cue. And he wrote one called The Opposite of Gratitude. And he says this, he says, I'm not sure how to make anyone feel grateful. My parents told me that I should be grateful a number of times, but telling me to be grateful didn't make me feel grateful. Honestly, there were times that I felt guilty because I didn't feel gratitude. I actually thought something was wrong with me. Why didn't I feel grateful when I should? Then at some point, I grew up and made a simple discovery. The emotion of feeling grateful doesn't happen naturally. It is the result of the deliberate choice of demonstrating gratitude. In other words, you don't show gratitude because you feel grateful. You feel grateful because you show gratitude. We are asked by God to show our gratitude. Show it by giving. Giving thanks, giving to others, giving back to God. Get creative with your gratitude. Sing your praises to God to thank him for a good day. Write a check to the church or to one of your favorite causes to say thank you for an answered prayer. Share your time with someone in need as a way to give a token back to God for all he's given you. We are incapable of giving more than God has already given to us. So just keep giving. To quote Ellen White again, she said in an article in Signs of the Times in 1902, so this was a little while ago, God desires us to give cheerfully, willingly, gladly. None can keep his law without ministering to others. Happiness is the gift of God to him who, in the Spirit of Christ, toils for the good of others. Mrs. White is echoing what the Bible says, that gratitude is important. And if we count ourselves as a believer, we must demonstrate this through giving. Have any of you ever seen the show on Netflix called Untold Stories of the ER?